Welcome to Across the Desk, where we discuss entrepreneurship, small business, and everything in between. Hey, it's Elizabeth Plouffe, and welcome to Across the Desk. Today's a bit of a wise words situation, and I just recently, I read like a lunatic. I mean, that's how I start off all of the wise words podcasts, because it's true. I just I was at a workshop like a showcase type thing on Saturday for the Autism Job Club, and had to drive a member to the Go bus station. And on the way back, I'm like, I'll just pop into Value Village. You know, I was actually looking for something on Bruce Lee, but that's another story. And one thing leads to another, and I end up walking out with Richard Branson's autobiography on what they don't teach you in business school and the Virgin label, a book on leadership from Winston Churchill's granddaughter, who sort of profiles his, personal letters or something. And then 2 books by Bill Richardson from CBC. One was The Sad Goat, and one was Interviews with Eccentric Canadians. And then the last one is a book by Grey Owl, which I'd heard about before, and I don't have it in front of me, but looks very intriguing. Tales from the Cabin, I believe it is, about the Canadian North and the Indigenous peoples. Yeah, went in for 1 book, came out with 5. It's just the way it goes with me. So right now I'm also reading Make It Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. So that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. And I have been a little distracted, I have to tell you, with Sad Goat by Bill Richardson and by the Richard Branson biography. But I'm going to be focused. I'm going to be a good girl. Today, however, we are talking about one of Jen Sincero's books. And I think this was her first one. It's You Are a Badass, How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life. And I actually kind of went a bit backwards with my introduction to Jen Sincero, in that I started out with her You're a Badass at Making Money, because that's what was top of mind for me. And I'm not a particularly materialistic person, but I'm also kind of tired of making not as much as I could. So that was an amazing book. And I think the only criticism I had for that one was she didn't include the references that she used to build her store of knowledge. And so that bugged me a little bit. However, I was walking in Chapters, which is just like, crack addict in a heroin den for me, and spied this book and just decided to go for it and take it. And I'm just going to, if you don't know who Jen Sincero is and the badass movement, I'm just going to read you a little bit from her website here. Jen Sincero is a #1 New York Times bestselling author, success coach, and motivational cattle prod who's helped countless people transform their personal and professional lives via her products, speaking engagements, newsletters, seminars, and books. Her #1 New York Times bestseller, You Are a Badass, How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life, has sold well over 1 million copies, is available in 20 plus languages, and continues to grow in popularity around the globe. Her follow-up, You're a Badass at Making Money, Master the Mindset of Wealth, also a New York Times bestseller, is written with the same inimitable sass, down-to-earth humor, and blunt practicality that made You Are a Badass an indomitable bestseller, and Jen a celebrated voice in the world of self-development. And so she says here, in order to kick your ass, you must first lift up your foot. It goes on again, and she talks, this is based on her own transformation from a frustrated 40-year-old living in a converted garage, watching tumbleweeds blow through her empty bank account, to a successful business owner traveling the world in style. You Are a Badass at Making Money is a testament to the fact that, in Jen's words, if my broke ass can get rich, you can too. And it goes on to talk about it. So you can visit her at jensincero.com and see what she's got and what have you. And I like the way she talks. I like the way she just delivers. Like I say, I read a ton of books. You can check out the other wise word tracks, and there's a huge variety. So I'm not stuck on one direction or one deliverable. This one, I have to confess, I enjoyed the money one more, strictly because I was more focused on that at the time. And this is... The You Are a Badass is actually an excellent book if you are where I was a year and a half ago. So I've already done a lot of research and reading to sort of get past my employee mindset and move forward and be a stronger entrepreneur and what have you. And because I was coming at it from a different perspective than from a year and a half ago, the first part of the book it was what I had already worked on. But I highly recommend, if you're struggling right now, you're trying to make some major changes in your life, you're trying to get past yourself and move forward in something, she does offer excellent advice and some really practical stuff. And it's very relatable for a wide variety of people, and not in a generic vanilla kind of way, but everybody struggles, everybody has challenges, and she's very authentic in offering up her own examples of what she's gone through to make it to where she is now, which is awesome. I mean, I think a lot of people are inspired by examples. I know I am. And when you can relate to somebody, it makes it that much easier to digest the wisdom that they're giving you. So where it got kind of funny or badass or whatever you want for me, and I'm a huge believer in reading from the books. So it got back to money. It goes on, and she talks here. It was talking about, the almighty decision and not making deadlines and facing your own bullshit that's getting in the way of what you're trying to do. And she says here, and whoever you are. Oh, here we go. Sorry. If you're wired for making instant decisions, practice tuning into your intuition and fully trusting what it says, regardless of what your brain may be screaming about. Get quiet, listen for and feel into the answer, and practice on acting on your first solid impulse. And whoever you are, please stop saying how pathetic you are at making decisions. Erase the phrase, "I don't know," from your vocabulary and replace it with, "I'll know what to do soon enough." Decide to become the person who makes quick, smart decisions, and you will. And I thought I was a bit weird in the fact that I usually make decisions pretty quickly, depending on what it is. Like right now, I'm researching earbuds. And that might sound a bit weird, but if I'm looking at laying down $100 or $200 on a pair of earbuds, I'm going to do my research, and I am going to try and cost compare because I am thrifty. And the problem is that people can get obviously caught up in paralysis by analysis, where they're constantly questioning and reevaluating and not following their instincts. And a couple of years ago, a friend of mine gave me a neat kind of tip. If you are one that believes in sort of being connected to the energy of the planet, and I don't mean that in a woo-woo way, but it is scientifically proven, and there's actually a really cool video out on Facebook, I think it is, that shows the change in direction of the energy at the equator. They actually have these two things of water, and they put this, I don't know what it is, into the water. On one side of the equator, it spins clockwise. They walk 10 feet to the other side of the equator, and it spins counterclockwise. Coolest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, if you are somebody who can embrace the opportunity, if you are struggling with a decision, a friend of mine suggested this to me. So Susan Williamson Mackay, I'm calling you out. Plant your feet. Try and calm your mind, which for most of us who are type A's is a bit of a, monkey jungle situation. But think about what you want to decide about. Think about what decision it is you're facing. And if you are able, and I'm not questioning, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to plant the doubt in your mind. You'll be able to do it. It might take a few tries, but you'll be able to do it. See if your body leans forward or leans back when you are thinking about the decision that you have to make. So if you're trying to decide on a car, trying to decide on a outfit, like whatever it is that might be, business decisions, working with somebody, partnership agreements, all, you can apply this to just about anything. See if you lean forward or you lean back when you think about it. Obvious, you lean forward. Okay, look into it. Move a little forward with that. See what you got to do. I'm not saying risk your whole house on starting a new business. I mean, be smart about this. But if you've been hesitating a little bit, maybe you just need a little nudge. Likewise, if you lean back, you know what? Maybe your body's not into it. Your mind's not into it. Your mind governs whatever decisions you're going to make, whether you're thinking about it or not. And if you involuntarily lean back from something, then it's time to sort of reevaluate and take a second look at it. And you still might move forward, but maybe you just needed more research, you needed more information, whatever it is. And that's a lot of what Jen Sincero talks about in You Are a Badass, is relying on your intuition and, sort of accepting these tips and tricks from the universe so that you can make some serious shit happen. And I will qualify this book with what happened to me last week. So then it gets into Money, Your New Best Friend is the chapter where it's kind of started to get to me, because I'm past the starving artist mindset and getting into the, you know what? I like taking vacations. I like trips. I like the conference I was just at last week. I want to do more of that. In order to do that, I need to exchange some moolah with somebody. So here we go. She writes here, which you might not have this. I know I did. When you first start out with your business, especially if you're going from an employee to an entrepreneur mindset, it can be really hard to talk about money. Some people can jump right in and amen, good for you. I think that's awesome. I took a little while to get on board with that just because I've never had to really negotiate hard for money. I've never had to put a price on my services. I just kind of accepted what the job said and figured, I'd get the raises and follow the carrot stick situation. Don't do that, by the way. I read another really interesting book about women in negotiation, and it detailed quite clearly the losses that women face financially when we don't negotiate up front. So I can't remember the name of the book. This is awful of me. I don't have it in front of me, but it was about negotiation. It's in the Wise Tracks. So have a look if you've been struggling with that. And it's an older book, but man, was it good. So here we go. She starts talking about money here. At the time, I didn't have a whole lot of money, but I had my own business that I was trying to grow. The problem was I felt stuck in that place where even though I wanted bigger and better things for myself monetarily, as well as feeling more mighty and self-actualized in general, I was worried that if I raised my prices, I'd lose all my clients and my self-respect, or that I'd get called a money-grubbing pig, or a fraud who had no right to charge that much. I was also scared that if I went big and grew my business, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I'd have to hire tons of people. I'd spend my times doing things I hated. I'd get so busy I'd never get to travel. I'd wither and die, trapped behind my computer, fun and freedom skidding away in my rearview mirror, never to be seen again, blah, blah, blah. I could fill up 4 more pages of reasons why I was where I was, but suffice to say, I was basically playing at the level of someone who drives around in a car like the one I was driving in. The most painful part really was that even though all signs pointed to broke, clueless, and stuck, deep down I knew I could be doing so much better. Which is why, even though the sound of crickets could be heard echoing through my empty bank account, I wandered into an Audi dealership, took the brand new Q5 for a spin, and let the sales guy rattle on and on about leather this and premium that. In my head, I was thinking, do you have any idea who I am? I'm just taking a fantasy break before heading over to Honda. But in my heart, I knew better. Way down deep, it was much more than about just a damn car. And this is where stuff got real for me. It was about no longer being the kind of person who takes what she can get, and finally becoming the kind of person who creates exactly what she wants. It was large, Marge. And because part of me was terrified to grow and part of me wanted to blast out and be huge, and also because I love to drive more than I love to eat, I tortured myself over which car to buy for weeks. So it goes on, and she had the Honda CR-V and the Audi Q5, and she ended up going for the Audi Q5. And she did it. And she says, blasting through this comfort zone is what I want to talk about here. Purchasing the Audi should have had me waking up screaming in the middle of the night because it cost the kind of money I would normally only consider spending on something like mandatory heart surgery. Certainly not on something as frivolous as a car. But after I bought it, I slept like a baby. Because once I made the decision to buy it, I also made the decision to get over my shit and become the kind of person who can make the kind of money to buy that kind of car, or who can do anything else I wanted to do. And it was really cool. She says, I almost instantly came up with a way to pay off the Audi, and it illustrated for me anyway, how making those decisions and getting past the paralysis allowed her to make the bolder moves she needed to do to grow her business and be playing in the fields she wanted to be playing in. And she says, when you level up your idea of what's possible and decide to really go for it, you open yourself up to the means to accomplish it as well. And so I've just found this really fascinating, and I had a couple of other things marked here to read to you, just because. Oh, actually, I do love this chapter, and I'll do a little bit of this, although I'm running a bit long here. Doing versus spewing. I love it. I absolutely love it, because it is something that I'm so averse to. When people just talk about what they're going to achieve and what a big deal they are, but they're not actually doing anything, or they, keep having to bring up the same achievement that they did 4 years ago. Okay. You should be proud of yourself for what you accomplished 4 years ago. Don't ever lose the pride about that. But if that's all you have to talk about 4 years later, shit has gone sideways for you, my friend. Something has gone wrong where you have either rested on your laurels of that accomplishment or something set you off your track and you're not moving towards anything bigger. And if I meet up with you at networking events and over again, you keep talking about this stuff from 4 years ago, I'm done. So it's really nice talking to you, but I'm done. And it's time for you to read this really great book called You Are a Badass, because you are no longer a badass. So she says here, which I love this, an epiphany is a visceral understanding of something you already know. And I've mentioned before, and I'm not sure if on Wise Words here I've mentioned it. I have a great coach, Holly Simmons. She's goldenlasso.com. And she helps you figure out, she's a business coach and a family mediation expert and a few other things, but she's just terrific at sort of helping you sort through your bullshit. And one thing she always says to me, and I'm sure she says to all her clients, is that you already have the answer. I'm just helping you dig it out. And I used to think that was poppycock, but it is not. It's kind of frightening how true it is. And so she goes on, and she says here, not Holly or Jen, she says here, when something moves from our brains to our bones, that's when we can use it to change our lives. The $1 million question is, will we? Oh, the years people spend talking the talk, rolling out the shoulds, woulds, and coulds, attending classes, trolling the seminar circuit, and burying themselves in all sorts of shelf-helpery. I love that. Before they finally, if ever, do anything with it at all. There's a statistic that says only 5% of people who sign up for something, like a course or a seminar, actually do anything with it. And this includes very, very, very high-priced somethings, not just the money management class at the community college down the road. This is because lots of people wish for change, really, really want it, and are willing to invest the time and money into it, but are ultimately not willing to get uncomfortable enough to actually make anything happen. Which means they don't want it as badly as they say they do. I tried is the poor man's I kicked butt. People who are successful are not only willing to get uncomfortable, but they know they have to make a habit of it if they want to stay successful. They keep moving through each new challenge instead of stagnating and settling. The muscle of kick-assery is like any other muscle. You have to use it or lose it. If you have one big breakthrough and feel like, I got this, I am on it, and then sit back and wait for your long overdue stream of awesomeness to keep pouring in, you will lose your muscle mass and fall back to the marshmallow state that you were in before you started working out. Keep moving. Keep growing, keep pushing through obstacles, keep evolving. You break through at one level, arrive at the next, and take another step up. Each time you grow, you get to learn something new, which basically means you have to get uncomfortable again. Because when you arrive at a level you've never been at before, you're faced with challenges you've never experienced before. It's the willingness to keep pushing through the new challenges, not shrink back from them into your comfort zone, that separates the successful from the unsuccessful. New level, new devil. So this doing versus spewing chapter, which is towards the ends of the book, was just crazy good. And it really ended on a high note for me, and it was really interesting. And I'll wrap up by saying what I got out of this book was I'm working with somebody on a project that's kind of complicated, and it's a personally driven project. It's not a client-based project, but I am convinced it will change how things are for a vulnerable community that I'm very involved in, which is the autism community. And, I was kind of waffling back and forth. And while I was talking to my project partner, he said to me, do you know about CASDA? And I said, well, what's CASDA? And so it's the Canadian Autism Spectrum Disorder Association. And they hold an annual conference. And this year was their 4th conference. And it's in Ottawa, which is about 5.5 hours from where I live. And it took me about, half an hour, maybe not even. And to borrow Mel Robbins' tool, I 54321 got out my credit card and booked to go. I would figure out if somebody was coming with me or how I was going to get there or where I was going to get the rest of the money from to fund this trip after. And I am incredibly grateful for Mel Robbins and for Jen Sincero and the wisdom that I got from their books to screw up the courage and go. I wouldn't have done that a year ago. And it was an amazing experience. I ended up taking the Via train, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but I've never traveled 5.5 hours on a train on my own before. Not earth shattering, but some people were quite impressed. And then I made another decision. I was looking around for a place to stay. And in order to facilitate me being there, I had to be very mindful of my budget. And hotels in the downtown Ottawa area, not very cost effective. Chateau Laurier was like 300 and something a night. You know, other ones were in the 200 range, and still others were like in the 100 or above range. And I stumbled across the, I'm going to say it wrong, the Ottawa High Hostel Jail. And I think that's the right order. I could be wrong. Essentially, this building was created in the mid-1800s, and it was the Carleton County Jail. Beautifully built building, by the way. And it was deregulated, deconsecrated, I don't know what you call it, as a jail in 1972. And they brought the prisoners in from the new jail who were skilled at trades to retrofit the jail. And within 6 months, it was opened up as a hostel. That's where I stayed. I booked 3 nights in. Initially, I had 1 room, but when I went and saw it, it was the equivalent width-wise of 2 twin beds, and that just was not going to do it for me. And so I went down and changed my room, ended up in a beautiful double cell. I got to tell you, so much fun. Met some very interesting people. Ended up having a terrific conversation with a teacher, Lauren Gainsbrook, if you end up listening. Woohoo! She is a Montessori teacher out in Toronto. And it was through talking to her about autism and why I was there and some stories about my son that the second day at the conference, I wrote the outline for a book. And I already have, I think it's 23 chapters sort of sorted out and the stories that are going to go with it. And because of her response and because of other people I talked to and everything else, I'm going to be writing a book. So this little badass is trying to take it to a new level. And it is thanks to people like, you know, Jen Sincero and Mel Robbins and Brene Brown and all these amazing women who are badasses that share their information that I've taken those chances and new opportunities and look where I'm going. So if you are, you know, coming out of the funk between employee and entrepreneur, if you're looking at making a major change and in your organization, if you want to take on new challenges, whatever, you're struggling a little bit, this was a good book. You Are a Badass, How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life. It'll introduce you to some ideas if you're not into energy and surrender and visualization and all those things. A companion to this one would actually be the Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich, which was an awesome book, and she references it in here. And the last thing that I really love about this book is that in this one, and maybe it's why it wasn't in the other one, maybe she assumed that you'd read both, which you should, they're good, is, you know, 3 or 4 pages of resources and the books that she used and the seminars and stuff that she attended. And I really respect that. I love when people, you know, give up the knowledge and where they got it. So that part was really terrific as well. And as she says at the end of every chapter, she says, love yourself. And then she gives you a reason. So the last one is love yourself. You are a badass. So check it out. It's really cool. There's a Badass Nation on Instagram with Jen Sincero, and she seems to be pretty good at responding and what have you. So check it out. Those are my wise words for today. And as always, my wise words come from the wisdom of myself and others. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I hope if you've been struggling with a decision or you're wanting to move forward, that this will help you out with that. If you're looking for any other questions or resources, post them in the comments. So I'm a terrific research nerd. I'll try and find something that will help you. And what I usually say at the end of Entrepreneurial Entrails is just know that you have the guts and glories to create your own story. And that's not hokey. For me, that's a truth. I firmly believe everybody has the opportunity to create their own story, that you don't have to just keep letting life happen to you. And when I had that epiphany from Jen Sincero's book, I'm going to go back and read it to you again. It was no longer being the kind of person who takes what she can get and finally becoming the kind of person who creates exactly what she wants. You can too. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Thank you for listening to Across the Desk. You can follow me on Twitter at MCBComms, Instagram at MCBCommunications, or visit mcbcommunications.ca to see where else I'm hiding out.